And we're live. All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Julia with the Halifax Chamber of Commerce, and we'll just wait a second for some more attendees to come in. But thank you so much for joining us this morning on the Planning for Growth webinar. So I personally always learn something new from webinars, and I know Shane is really knowledgeable, and Mark and the other folks on the call. So just kind of grab a hot drink or a cold drink, whichever you feel. I know it's nicer out today. So just get cozy with us, and we'll talk about planning for growth. So to introduce the webinar, so like I had mentioned, I'm Julia with the Halifax Chamber of Commerce. I'm in the member services role. So I spend a lot of time talking to over 1,800 chamber members on a daily basis. I love communicating and getting to know you. So if you're not a chamber member, I'm just going to plug that you should certainly join on with us. But again, thank you for joining us here at 10 to 11 this morning for this webinar. So, you know, with COVID and over the past 2 years, businesses have faced difficult times, unprecedented really, and uncertain when it comes to growth or employment or anything like that. So Mark and Shane are going to talk to us a little bit about that and utilize their expertise. So we will have a Q&A period at the end of the webinar where you can, you know, throughout the presentation, you can put questions in the chat box. It's just down here on the bottom of your bar there on Zoom. And Shane and Mark, I'm sure you'll kind of ask me or periodically see if there's any questions in there. But I know there's an awesome prize at the end of this presentation too. But we'll stop listening to me, and Shane and Mark, if you want to introduce yourselves, we'll start with Shane and then go off to Mark.
Yeah, well, listen, Julia, a big thank you to you and the Chamber for all that you do to support small business. And I think we've got close to 20 people tuning in today. So thank you for giving up your valuable time today. So our session is called Planning for Growth Squared. And the idea being that your business and your personal growth intersect. You can't have one without the other. So our plan over the roughly 60 minutes together is to share with you 7 tips for personal and business success, and we want to do it in a bit of rapid fire in the theme of time is money. We want to give you 7 quick tips, and just to kind of give you a little bit of background on who I am. So my name is Shane Kennedy, and I'm the owner and operator of a local cooperators agency. And I'm 2 years into the business after a 20+ year career with one of the big banks, and after 8 moves and 10 years absence from Nova Scotia, I decided it was time to come back and to be part of this growth that's happened in Nova Scotia. So what I'm going to share with you is everything that I've learned in the last 18 months that I wish I knew 20 years ago. 3 things in particular. I'm going to talk to you about how you can save on your insurance costs with a no-lose strategy. Number 2, I'm going to talk to you how you can build wealth with life insurance, which was a new one for me. And finally, I'm going to talk to you about how you can minimize your taxes on non-registered dollars. So before I turn it over to Mark, and Mark, I'll get you maybe to turn the slide to the agenda slide. I'll give you a bit of a rundown on our plan of attack for today. So we're gonna, after Mark, my colleague goes over a little bit of an intro, we're gonna kick it off with an interactive poll. We wanna read the audience. We wanna find out what your pain points are and what some of those problems that we hope we can help you solve are today. Then again, we're gonna go over some rapid fire 7 tips. Then we're gonna open it up to some Q&A. And if you haven't had an opportunity to check out the new beautiful Muir Hotel down on the waterfront, our partners there have been very gracious to donate a beautiful prize for somebody. So I'm going to put you to work already, and you have to stick around until the end to win. But in the chat, I need you to put your month and day of birth. Don't need to put your year, but if you're feeling kind of crazy on this Tuesday, we'll take your year as well. But stick around until the end, and somebody will win the gift the beautiful gift from the Muir Hotel. So we got a January 2nd already on there, so that's awesome. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Marc, and Marc, thanks for all the work to put this off today with me.
Thank you so much, Shane. Good morning, everyone, and again, a big thanks to the chamber, to Julia, to Sandra, Cindy, and everybody who helped us to prepare this webinar. So really appreciate it. So my name is Marc. I am the founder of Strategy Up, which is a consulting firm here based in Halifax. And actually, our role is to help small and medium enterprises, family businesses, to grow. And as Shane today, he was saying that we are helping you not only to look at the business growth, but as well at the personal growth with Shane. So I will be sharing with you some of my tips to help you identify a good strategy to push forward your business, especially that we know how the pandemic and all this economic, I would say, instability impacted our businesses and our lives. So this is why we are here, and thank you so much for being here with us today. We really appreciate it. So before we start, I think it's interesting to start with the poll. So Sandra, I would really appreciate it if you can launch the first one. So we have 4 different questions. We will give you a couple of probably 30 seconds on each one just to reply. So please take your time, reply to these polls, because it will help us and it will help you also understand where you stand from these topics. So we have on this one 8 out of 17 who replied. So please, the ones who didn't yet reply, just take a minute or a second. It's very simple questions. So we'll give it 10 more seconds and then we move to the next question. Okay. So Sandra, I think we can go to the next question.
Marc, I'll have to start humming the Jeopardy music. I'm not a very good singer.
There you go.
Yeah. No, I'm going to keep my day job.
Perfect. We have more answers coming. Go ahead. A few of you didn't yet reply. If you want, you still have 10 more seconds to do so. Yes, we got one more. Any more brave souls over here to reply? Okay, Sandra, I think we can move to the next one. So this one is, no, we still have one more. Yeah. So this one, if you are to develop your strategic plan, what would you do? So go ahead, try to reply. There you go. We have answers coming. Perfect. More are coming. So we'll give you 10 more seconds on this one, and then we move to the last question of the day. Yeah. Okay, no one else wants to answer on this one? No problem. Okay, so Sandra, please, the last one. Okay, so this one is, what is the one thing that is making you not having a strategic plan? You can select more than one answer. Is it the lack of resources, lack of visibility? We do not have the internal resources to do it. All of the above. Very good. Perfect. Yeah, more people are answering over here. Excellent. Very good. We give you 5 more seconds and then we will close the polls and then we will move forward. Great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sandra. I think we can now close the polls. Yes. Excellent. So as we see, we have a majority saying lack of resources on this one. Anyway, so thank you so much for sharing your insights. I think this is extremely important for us. And now I will dive directly into the topic. And so today I will start by giving you the first tip about the importance of strategic planning. So why strategic planning is important? It's important for every business, and you want to make sure that we are moving based on a good plan. Otherwise, we might be going in all directions. So these are a couple of summary points for us just to kick off the discussion. It's first of all, it provides information to the organization. So when you have a strategic plan, it's going to help you gather information, analyze, and also try to share this information within your peers and your teams. It's not only to sit on the desk of the executives or the business owner. Why it is also important? Because it motivates and inspires all the stakeholders. When we talk about stakeholders, we need to look at the internal and external stakeholders. So from the internal ones is all the founders, the shareholders, the employees and managers. But the external ones are very important, are the customers, vendors, and partners. Oftentimes we don't bother, or we think that our strategic plan is so confidential that we don't even share it with our partners. And I think this is also a misconception. Yes, I agree that we shouldn't share everything, but there will be a part of the communication of the strategic plan that should be developed for external communication, because it gives more confidence to your audience and to the people with whom you are interacting. And this is what makes businesses great and bigger, and this is what will boost your growth as an organization. Of course, it is going to provide a direction and a prediction about your own customer base and about all your products and services. So at some point you will need to identify what kind of products, or what are the products and services that are less profitable or not profitable, which ones we need to remove or add to the portfolio. So this is very important, so that we keep our eyes on the horizon and try to grow the business. And it's also going to give you a good indication about your customer base. Are you really targeting the right segments? Are you getting the right money from the right segment? All these important key performance indicators around your customer base will be identified in a very solid strategic plan. Then, of course, one major aspect of a good strategic plan is that it's going to help you identify, and not only identify, but manage the risks. We know that any business is going to face different risks, whether they are internal or external risks. And when we do a strategic plan, it's going to help us to find these weaknesses or the risk or the pain points, and try to work on finding the solution for them. And of course, a strategic plan could be for midterm, like we look at around the 3-year strategic plan, or you can even go for a very long term from 5 to 10 years. But of course, 5 to 10 years, we need to be in industries that are supporting this kind of long-term visibility. But if we are a small business, and ideally we need to do something around 3 years as a strategic plan, and review it every 2 to 3 years. Finally, we need to communicate about the mission, the vision, and the value of the organization. Again, sometimes we have them, but we just don't talk about them, or in some other times we don't even have them, or we didn't formulate them, and they are very important, because usually these are our guidelines, these are our guiding principles for the organization, the way we want to behave as a business, the way we want to position ourselves. And then all this is going to impact all our actions and the action plan which we will have in the future. So stick around, I still have 3 more tips for you. And now to Shane.
Yeah, thanks, Marc. And for me, starting a new business, I think the mentorship you've given me, and certainly on those values, the importance of that mission statement was critical. So thanks so much. We're gonna switch over to personal And Marc talked a little bit about the value and why a strategic plan is important. I want to talk to you a little bit about how to protect against unexpected illness, and this is what I call the hedge strategy. So this is a critical illness strategy with return of premium. So if we go to the next slide, Marc, this next slide is what I call the it can't happen to me slide, or the bad news slide. And this one's just important. We all think about, it's never going to happen to me, and I'm Superman or Superwoman. The stats are clear that there is a large risk that many of us will unfortunately get a critical illness. The good news is that we will live. What I'm going to show you is not only the ability to take out a policy to protect yourself, but in the event that you live a healthy life, the strategy enables you to get all of your money back. So we go to the next slide there. So just to kind of give you a bit of a 101, what the heck is critical illness, or critical assist as we call it? And to give you the summary kind of statement on what it is, it's coverage for a covered illness that you live through the illness and you get paid. So it's a living insurance policy is really what it comes down to. Next slide. So as part of critical illness, there is an optional component. No, we go back. Yeah, there we go. There's an optional component called return of premium. And really what it is you remain healthy and you never make a claim. And I know, I think it was a third of our respondents said, listen, I pay too much life insurance, or I pay too much insurance, and I never see the value. Well, this is for you. The return of premium, the way it's built in is that you get all your money back at age 75 if you never make a claim. That's option A. Option B is you get all your money back after 15 years if you never make a claim. And when you think about it, it's a forced savings, and really there's a no lose on this particular strategy. Any way you look at it, you're getting money paid. Number one, my God, if you succumb to an illness, your beneficiaries get all their premiums back. Number two, you live a healthy life, all the premiums are returned. And if you are unfortunately contact a critical illness and you make a claim, you get all of your money back and then some, because you get a tax-free payment. So we go to the next slide. This really just talks, before I entered this business, certainly when I thought about critical illness, I thought about the big three: cancer, heart attack, stroke. There's certainly a full array of critical illnesses that we do cover, and that certainly put your money to work for you. We go to the last slide, Marc. Last kind of comment I would make around this strategy is most often this is personally owned. However, it can be corporately owned. And if it's the latter, there's really kind of three ways that we can kind of structure 100% corporate owned, 100% personally owned, or that there's also a strategy called split dollar ownership. I'll leave it there. And I know we have some questions, and the nice thing about dealing with Marc and I is that we have access to experts and the industry best, and we've got a few of our experts on the line, so we'll save that question to the end. And I think the question was, with the return of premium, do we give interest back? So we'll park that one and get that towards the end, but great question.
Thank you, Shane. So now I will continue by talking about the strategic planning model. So at the beginning, I gave you my first step about why strategic planning is important. So now let's talk about the model, which model to follow, how you can start or how you can kick off this exercise within your organization. First of all, we need to lay down the foundations. To lay down the foundations, we need first of all to look at simplicity. If you make things simple, then it will be easy for us to follow through and to make them happen. So we don't need to overcomplicate the business. We don't need to overcomplicate what we are doing in order to just say that we are growing or want to improve. Second, we need to have a good due diligence done in the business. So in a way, sometimes we want to ignore some facts, or we want to not really dig deep into one of our problems. But it is very important to do a very solid due diligence so that we know exactly what's going on. It's like, imagine that you feel sick and you need to go to a doctor. They need to do a good diagnosis about you so that they can decide which way to treat you. And it's the same thing with the business. We need to do a very solid diagnosis so that we know how to fix the business. It has to give us good clarity. Like if we do this exercise, if we start working on a strategic planning model or on the execution, and we still don't have a good clarity, or it's not clear for us what we're trying to do and why we are doing it, then we have a problem. So it should resolve this problem. And then as well, it is what you need to do is to focus on the important, because we know that the more the business is mature, the more complex it becomes. And we don't want to just be entangled with all the complexity of our business. So we need to focus on the most important things, which we think are either slowing us down or not growing at the pace or at the rate which we are hoping for. And then this is where we need to start fixing. So we need to do, in a way, a good gap analysis to understand how to move forward. We need to eliminate all the distractions, meaning that if you are doing small investments here and there and they are not very successful ones, probably you need to drop them out, right? Or if you are just trying to make it happen, but you are struggling on one of the aspects of the business, maybe it is a good time to look at them and decide if you want to keep them in the business or not. So technically, what's the impact is that once we do all this, we will have definitely an impact on processes within the business, on technology. So we need to decide which technology we need to invest in, especially in this era, right? In the digital era. So we have to put technology as a core pillar of our strategic plan. Definitely, we need to look at people and talents. And we know that no business can grow without its people. So we need to really put a great focus on it. And then, of course, look at the management and at the governance of the organization. So in a quick way, I will show you the model which we can follow and what are the areas which we can focus on. So if you put the strategic plan as your target, as your focus, then first of all, you need to prepare for that. Right. So when we say we need to prepare for that, this means that we need to involve more people within our organization to be part of the strategic plan process. The worst thing that could happen to an organization is that you have the top few. So usually it's the CEO, the president, and maybe the couple who are around the CEO. They are the trusted circle, and they do everything. And this is very dangerous, because this is not going to give us any buy-in from the organization, from the people, from the employees, and even from the external resources or stakeholders. So it's important to look at the bigger picture and involve the right persons, the decision makers. Of course, we need to trust them. They need to love the company. That we need to make sure that they are the right people in the room, but just don't keep it only for the, I would say, few elite of the organization. Then we need to start looking at where we are today. So we need to look at our historical path, how we started, when we started, what brought us to where we are today. And then we're going to look at our vision, the mission, and the values. Why this is important? Because we want to see if what brought us today or to where we are, is it aligned with our mission and vision and values? If not, we have a problem. And then the strategic planning model is going to help us to, in a way, reset the buttons and make sure that from now on, we are trying to really move forward based on our values and mission and the vision of the organization. Then we have to look at where we want to be, right? What is the future which we want to have for our organization? So if you look at these three, if you want bubbles, where we are now, our mission and vision and where we want to be, actually is going to help us to identify or to do the gap analysis, right? So this is where we are, this is where we want to be, and then we understand why we're not there yet, what is going to take us to reach where we want to reach as an objective. And this is the next one in the model, is how do we get there? So we need to start thinking about the tools, the methods, the investment level. Is it about, don't forget, if you look at the bottom left side of this slide, the impact. What kind of processes we need to improve? What kind of technology we need to bring into the business? How are we going to support our people and the talents? How are we going to grow them? And how are we going to govern this organization? So this is really going to go into this bubble, which is how do we get there? And then finally, it's about the implementation. Usually, most of the strategic plans or the strategic execution, they fail because of the implementation. We might have a great plan on paper, but if the implementation is not done correctly, then this is where our strategic plan might fail. Up to you, Shane.
Thanks so much, Marc. And I would just kind of follow up. The importance and the value of having that written plan is just invaluable. So again, if we shift back to personal growth and personal wealth, this is my next kind of tip is how to build wealth using life insurance. And I got to tell you, as a former banker, I used to think of life insurance as a cost and not an investment. And then I'll tell you, I discovered the power of whole life and how it works. And I tell you, it only works because of the tax treatment. So I guess if I start at the beginning, just to kind of separate the two, term insurance is one that most people will be familiar with. It's a temporary insurance for many, and it's a necessary cost that they may or may not use. And when I say may or may not use, the only use is if you die, you get the benefit. So that's kind of term insurance. When you think about whole life, as much as it says, it covers you for your life, and there will be a payout. You pay a bit more premium, that extra premium. And if you look at our kind of fancy chart there on the left, that extra premium is invested in a pool of funds managed by our professionals. And each year, dividends are paid. Dividends by additional coverage, and that additional coverage in turn pays cash. So, you think about it, much like RSPs and tax-free savings, you have a compounding effect with the whole life policy, as it's all done in that tax sheltered environment. If you zoom in there, you would see a bit of a, our history on dividend payment has been very strong. And when you look at the pool, it's been about 5 to 6%. When you think about time frame, you can pay this off in 10 years, you can pay this off in 20 years, or you can pay it off for the never plan, which I call it, which is for life. I certainly, if the resources are there and you have the ability to cash flow it, a 10-year or a 20-year strategy is what I would recommend. Think of this really as an asset that you're building versus a cost. If we go to the next page, Marc, before we, I call this the money slide, but you think of, this is really, you have an opportunity also, and to quote a bit of a cheesy line, a giving while you're living. And because you're able to access, or you can access some of that cash that's built up in the contract, you can use it to gift it to your family members or your beneficiaries while you're still alive. You can use it to fund retirement, or you can use it to fund long-term care costs as well. So this is just a bit of a real life example. And again, the 500,000 could be easily 50,000, whatever might work for you. But this is a 48-year-old healthy male. We're going to pay it off in 10 years, and we're going to buy up additional additions. And basically all that means is that we're just going to buy more life insurance with the dividends, and that's where the compounding and that's where the magic happens. We go to the next slide, Mark. And this is just a bit of an example. So that 48-year-old that's buying that $500,000 policy, you know, at, call it, you know, $3,300 a month. At age 65 is going to have just shy of $500,000 in cash, and the face value has doubled. And again, it's that cash value that can be the giving while you're living. And, you know, statistically, males are going to live, you know, beyond 80. You know, that face value will grow to almost $2 million. So again, you know, you think of, a lot of times you think of life insurance as that, you know, big black hole, bottomless pit that you're never going to get value. Not the case with whole life. It is, think of it as an asset and think of it as a long-term asset. We go to the next slide. Much like the critical illness strategy, this can be owned personally, or it can be owned corporately. And again, this is just, you know, a bit of a summary on some of the benefits. Obviously, corporately, better after-tax dollars, and ways to be able to get it out of your company to your beneficiary. So again, when you think about building, and again, whole life was not a strategy I was introduced to, you know, 20 years ago. I wish I was. I do this for, you know, families that want to set a whole life policy up for their children. I do this for business owners that have retained earnings that they want to get out of their company, and are able to get it out in a tax efficient way. So that's my second tip, and we'll leave it at that. Welcome some questions towards the end. And this is our disclaimer, which basically means we're going to drag in your accountant and make sure we do before we do anything. So thanks so much.
Perfect. Thank you, Shane, and for helping us to plan our life. And now I will continue in helping to plan the business. So now we looked at the model, and now we need to look at the process of the implementation process in a way. So we need to look at what we call the pyramid process. Ideally, we need to start from the mission of the organization. We need to know what's the reason for us to exist, right? Why do we operate? Why are we doing what we're doing? And this is going later to drop down to the vision, and it's going to give us a 5+ year, or even it's a 10-year or 15 years. The vision is usually a long-term vision where we want to, in a way, foresee the future of the organization and state it as well, right? We need to tell the world why we are here, so the mission, and we want to tell the world what is our vision for our organization within our market, within our community, why it is important for us to be here. And not only for the external world, we need to say it for our employees. Can you imagine that you are going to the workplace and work with an organization where you don't know why this organization is existing? You don't know which mission or vision you are serving as an employee. Seriously, you're going to have like lots of dissatisfaction and high rate of turnover, of employee turnover, and later we wonder why we have a high rate. Just simply oftentimes just because the communication was not done properly internally. The third level of the pyramid, this is how we just in a way cascaded down. Then we need to define the goals. So when we define the goals, it's usually the 3 to 5 years plan, right? So this is what I was telling you about. It depends on the industry and how big the organization is, and the capabilities as well of the organization, that usually you do a 3 to 5 years strategic plan. And this is where we start identifying our 3 to 5 years goals, where we want to go. Remember in this chart before, one of the bubbles was, where do we want to be in the future? And this is exactly going to answer this question. Then Again, we cascade it down, and then we start going into something that is more and more tangible. This is where we're going to start identifying the major business objectives. When we talk about objectives, these are ideally short-term, one-year objectives at a department level or at a unit level. So this is why it is also a good practice to do what we call the annual objective evaluation for our employees and for our own business. And if we do what we call the SMART objectives, being specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, SMART acronym, then it's very easy for us then to be very objective and identify our success rate, right? We can say that this year we reached to 85% of our objectives. And now a good governance would say, we all understand that probably being perfect all the time is impossible, but why we didn't reach to 100%? What kept us short of these 15%, remaining 15%, right? And this is how we start doing the gap analysis. And then every year we start to improve. I don't want to go into another topic, but another topic could be for you to think about is what is our continuous improvement process, right? So this could result from from our assessment of the annual objectives. And then these objectives should serve in a way the strategies, right? The strategies that are actually delivered on a 2 to 3 years plan, but they are in a way reviewed on a quarterly basis. Because why it's important to review on a quarterly basis? Because all the time we need to readjust a little bit so that we keep the eyes on the horizon. We know where is our destination, but you know, the market conditions, the competition, our internal challenges will force us, unfortunately, to drift a little bit from the objective. But and this is why we need to do the quarterly assessments and the quarterly reviews, at least, so that whenever we see that we are diverting, we can come back to the, we can reset the compass and come back on course. So it's very important for any business to do this kind of reviews periodically. Now, some organizations would say, okay, we don't have the bandwidth, or we don't have the resources, or we don't have the time to do quarterly, so they do every 6 months. I think every 6 months is the minimum which you can do to review your strategies and where you are towards your strategies. What have you achieved so far? And then finally, at the bottom of the pyramid, this is in a way the day-to-day operation. This is how you will be able to relate it to the overall strategic plan, is where you will develop the tactics, the projects, and the tasks. So at this level, it is, the day-to-day operations you will have, like at a probably head of department level or head of unit department, or at an individual level. And here you will have the business as usual reviews, monthly, weekly reviews, progress meetings. And this is how the tactics which are at the bottom of the pyramid are actually going to serve the mission which is at the top of the pyramid, right? Probably the mission was developed 2, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years ago, right? But we shouldn't forget about it. And this is why and how our employees and our business will become even more performing even better while we understand why we are doing all this. So again, another topic which we can, if you are interested in digging deeper in it, could be to understand how we manage what we call balanced scorecards. And then if you want to go there, this is how you can, in a way, understand how your strategy, or this is how you can monitor the progress of the strategy. Back to you, Shane.
Sorry, I was talking to myself there for a few minutes, which is not unlike most days. So just want to say thank you. If you see a common theme, it's really about having a plan, whether it be for your business or whether it be for your personal. My last kind of hot tip of the day, or tip number 6, is really around how to minimize your taxes with non-registered investing. And we have, I do a lot of business with Fidelity Investments, and we have one of my partners on the line today. And if you don't know about Fidelity, they are, if not the largest, one of the largest fund companies in the world, with over 11 trillion. So they have size, they have strength, and they have expertise. And they offer a product that is called corporate class funds. And, it's by far one of the most efficient tax ways to hold non-registered dollars. You think about mutual funds, and then we've got a chart here to kind of give you a bit of a visual, but you think about mutual funds, whether or not you're buying or selling mutual funds, there's a cost to hold those investments. And those costs come in the form of income, they come in foreign income, capital gains, and dividends. And, the easiest way to kind of describe or define a corporate class fund is much like many of us. When we started our own business, we were given the advice to incorporate. And a big part of that driving factor was for the ability to write off expenses against our revenue. And ultimately, my accountant reminds me, you can never avoid taxes, but you can minimize taxes. And that is exactly what a corporate class fund does, is they look to reduce expenses and to minimize those high income distributions, such as interest income and foreign, and certainly foreign income distributions. That's really the goal of corporate class funds. I had a money slide on the whole life strategy. Next one is my money slide for corporate class. And maybe the next slide, Mark, or maybe we're back one, my friend. Okay, I was like, hopefully you didn't get rid of the money slide. So again, we put a big number in there at $1 million. You can knock that down to 100. You can divide it by 2. The key here is just a comparison between holding non-registered funds in a really, really terrific fund, for example, the Fidelity Global Balance portfolio. And you can see, what that $1 million investment, certainly lots of growth, but you can also see at the bottom there what we pay the tax man. Same kind of portfolio inside a corporate class fund. And you can see the taxes payable at the bottom. It's really tiny there, but it's 175,000 versus 15,000. So this is just to kind of hit home. Corporate class funds are a way for you to really, for non-registered, minimize those taxable payable. It's not a short-term solution. This is a long-term strategy, but it's one that is available. Now, again, we've got our friends from Fidelity, and I brought my swing coaches here for all the tough questions. So I want to make sure we have some tough questions at the end. But and again, Fidelity is one of the few on the street that still offer this product because, again, of their size, their expertise, so if we go to the last slide, this is just, which many of you would be aware, kind of tax treatment on different incomes and distributions and the value of such. So Mark, over to you for our last tip, and then we're going to open it up to some tough questions.
Yes, definitely. So thank you so much, Shane. I just want to remind everyone that if you didn't yet drop your date of birth and months of birth into the chat, please do it, because this is going to help you potentially to win a great gift from us at the end of this session. So please do so if you didn't do it yet. So now this is my last tip for the day around the strategic plan, is about the path to a successful strategic plan. So we discussed at the beginning about the importance, then we looked at the model, and then we discussed about the process, and now we're going to look at the path. In order to have a good strategic plan and a good implementation, we need to look at the concrete actions. So basically, we need to identify the objectives. We need to identify the initiatives that are serving the objectives, and then we look at the action plans that are serving the initiatives. So why this is important? Because sometimes we are, in a way, lost in our own line of thoughts, and then we start creating action plans which we think are important to us individually, personally, or as a department, or as a team, or as a unit, but it is not tied to the initiatives, and it is not tied to the objectives of the strategic plan. And then The question is not if we're doing things right or wrong, but the question is if this is serving our objectives, right? So it's very important for us to understand that everything we do in the organization should serve the objectives of a strategic plan. So first of all, we need to allocate responsibilities. We need to have a detailed stages. So we need to understand, like, if it is a complex project or a complex growth path, we need to have different stages, different, if you want, phases to the project so that we are able to take it in what I call bite sizes. We need to establish a time frame. This is also linked to what we call the SMART objectives. The timely is the last letter of the acronym of SMART. So all the objectives should be time bound. Like, we cannot indefinitely work on a project or on a task, and we don't have a time limit for it so that we can assess if we are succeeding or not. We need to assign resources, of course. We need to put very specific actions, right? It's not like go and do something. It's like, what are we going to do, when, by when? Like, this is where we probably are going to develop a project plan. We need to determine measurable deliverables. Again, this is the key performance indicators, where you need to have very, measurable elements to understand, did we reach 10% of the objectives, or 80%, or 90%, or 100% of the objectives? How are we going to measure this in a concrete and, most important thing, objective way? We need to define the expected results, right? Because again, as any team game, we need to know the boundaries. We need to know the rules. We need to know what is the objective, what we're trying to achieve. Otherwise, it will be a little bit chaotic in the organization. And then this is when sometimes we see that people are just going in all directions. Like, we see that everybody is busy, but we never see that a project is reaching an end, or we never really see a concrete outcome. We need to have a status report for each stage. And this is what we're talking about, like progress reports, these periodic meetings or progress meetings, whether at a task level, which is monthly or weekly, or at a strategic plan level, which could be quarterly or every 6 months. And then, of course, we need to communicate. We need to have a very strong communication strategy and plan in place for internal communication and, again, external communication. It becomes even more important, the external communication, especially if we are a public company, right? I am not going to go into these details right now, but if we are a public company, this is really a very important component, because it's going to affect shareholders' value and, of course, the price of your shares. And you need to prioritize your action plans. Now, when we do all this, I always summarize that there will be an impact on people and processes. Of course, I always say there is the trio of people, processes, and systems, but mainly it's about people and processes. So if you keep in mind the diagram which we discussed about before, you will always see that the people and the processes are all the time in what I call a continuous improvement. Because if you are ISO certified, ISO is mainly saying you write what you do and you do what you write, right? So this means that the process is not set in stone. It is dynamic. You can change it as long as you are compliant to what you're doing. The process should be reflecting it. And if at some point you believe that what is written in the process is not anymore serving the objectives, or is not anymore helping the organization, you have to go back to your people, understand how it is impacting them, and then rewrite the process in a way that is efficient for the organization. With that, we reached to the end of this session and the 7 tips. So now we open the floor to the Q&As. If you have any question for Shane about your personal growth, your personal wealth, or if you have any questions for me about your business growth and your business wealth, please feel free to share your questions in the Q&A. I don't know, Julia, Sandra, you want to handle the Q&As and then we answer?
Yeah, one comment I would just make is you were kind of going through your last tip there, Marc, that really jumped out at me. And something we used to use at the bank a lot is SMART objectives. And if you haven't heard that term before, SMART, it's specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and having a timeline. So just, kind of thinking about, objective as goals as SMART. And I know I see some people smiling, but no, and again, just want to thank you, Marc, for kind of, co-hosting this. And yeah, we want to open it up to some tough questions. I know there was one early on that was asked, and I'm happy to kind of grab that one first, Julia, and then you can kind of give some rapid fire and stick around because we got a couple more minutes left. And we've got to award the Muir Hotel because I don't want to have to take that prize if everybody drops off. So the question was around the critical illness return of premium. If there's interest that's paid on that. So after a 15-year period or a 20-year period, you get your money back because you live a healthy life. Is there interest on that deposit? And the answer is no interest on the deposit because in effect for 15 or 20 years, your return on investment is free insurance. So great question. And thanks for asking it.
Beautiful. Thank you guys so much. I know that that's a lot of information. I'm sure if anyone wants to connect with Shane and Marc after, perhaps just put your information in the chat box and they can reach out as well. Your email, what business you work for, all that good stuff. We did have a question come in for Marc, I believe. What are the biggest reasons companies drift away from the plans they have written?
Well, Ken, thank you for asking this question. And as I said before, you might have different reasons, but first, it could be lack of planning, right? So when you write a strategic plan, you shouldn't just forget about it, right? You need to have like a discipline. It's like a way of life. So first of all, what makes you drift away is that you don't do these periodics, what I would call check-in sessions, right? Or progress reports, because you are so busy firefighting. So this is actually the second thing that might force companies to get away from or not to follow the strategic plan is basically when they are firefighting all the time. They don't have all the resources in a way, or they cannot split the resources. Like some of the resources should step back from the business and look at it, from an eagle view rather than just being into the action. And honestly, this is where probably organization would need the help of external resources. Could be consultants, could be coaches, could be facilitators. I've done this to many organizations and really they get a great value out of it, because when you bring an outsider, they can ask you the tough questions. And actually, there is no, how to say, politically correct questions anymore, because we are here as facilitators or as consultants to really make you think about your business. I am not here to make you feel happy and comfortable in this session. And this is what really brings back things on course. So I hope that I was able to answer your question.
That's perfect. I think Kent probably definitely learned something there. So we had another question come in. How do small companies or even nonprofits manage to construct a relevant strategic plan with limited resources?
Yeah, this is, a challenge for all small businesses and also not for profit where the resources are limited. So ideally, you can, in a way, take a 2 or 3 days retreat. And usually what we recommend is that you take a Friday and you take a Saturday. So because Saturday is a non-working day, and the Friday you can, in a way, pull 1 day from the operation and then go on a retreat and do your strategic plan during that time. Usually for any, I would say, medium-sized organization, a 2 days a strategic plan workshop would be great to start putting, if you want, the titles and the big topics and big picture around it. But then you need to assign a champion. Usually you need to assign at least one person who's going to take the strategic plan and develop it with the team. So when you don't have the resources, ideally, again, you seek the help of external consultants and external resources. And again, you know, people would think that it's very expensive. You know, we're not here to talk about money, but in general, don't have this stigma that consultants are expensive. Actually, they are not, because when you look at it for the long term, actually look at the opportunity cost that this consultant would have brought you or would have made you save if you have done a proper strategic plan. So this is what I would say. Yes, I understand the challenge, but either you take a champion internally and they have to run with it, as long as they have the qualifications to do that. Just don't select anyone. This is another risk, is that you just select randomly someone who's volunteering. You just need to know that if this person has the qualifications to run a strategic plan. If not, definitely you will need to outsource it to someone to help you with that.
Beautifully answered. Shane, we have not much time, so I'll do one more question. So if you are locked into a term insurance approach, does it make sense to trim back on the amounts as you get older and the needs of you and your dependents get less reliant on your insurance? It's a great question.
Yeah, really great question. And I know we're tight for time. So when you think about term insurance, there's really a couple objectives that you have for it. Protect your income or protect your debt/assets. And there's usually a start and an end date. So, you know, when you think about, okay, as your debt starts to go down or you retire, there may be less of a need to protect income or to protect those debts. What I would say is, number one, we do a bit of an analysis on, you know, what do you need and for how long? And then I would say too, as cash flow and as other priorities start to shift, that's the perfect time to pivot to that whole life strategy so that you can start to build an asset. So you go from having a cost to really building an asset. And I know quickly there was another question there just around young people and how to get started. I would say insurance is one piece of the puzzle to building a plan. And I would say two things. The earlier you get started, both from a savings and you know, a retirement planning, the much better off you'll be, because you start early and invest often. You will have a tremendous amount of value when you retire. And also from a life insurance perspective, it is a heck of a lot cheaper when you're younger and when you're healthier, because your health can shift at any time. And that's why, you know, we got babies that were born a year ago that we're doing whole life policies on. Very economical and paid off by the time they're driving the car, and they have tremendous intergenerational wealth that they can pass on to their beneficiaries. So speed kind of answers there, but hopefully we hit them all. And I think that that is it.
That is. So if you guys want to facilitate the draw, and then we'll have our closing remarks and we'll be good from there.
Okay. So we'll do the big draw. And again, if you haven't checked out the Muir Hotel and what they're doing down on the waterfront, it's just spectacular. Great new business that we're really lucky to have here. And so the winner is our birth date that is closest to today's date. So I want to make sure that we have it right, but it looks like it's UT, who I need to send a birthday card because his or her birthday is May 11th, but I just want to make sure nobody's birthday is closer.
We have Shane Copeland, May 12th.
Yeah, so I think UT beat him by 1 day.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
May 11th and May 12th.
Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
That was you guys are maybe you guys go out for dinner together at the. It looks like it's UT, and UT. I don't know, but I would say please send me an email, Shane_Kennedy@cooperators.ca, and we'll. I don't know if you're attending any of the events that are happening in the coming weeks, but Mark and I will make sure that we get you the luxury bathroom robe and the $150 voucher to the Muir Hotel. And thanks, Shane. I know, man, you maybe need to go out and buy a lotto ticket because you missed it by.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know we're going to wrap the show, but I just want to thank the Chamber for everything you do to support small businesses. And I want to thank you, Mark, because you've been a great partner to kind of put this off. So over to you, Julia.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
Go
thank
ahead, Julia.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks, Shane and Anthony and Paul there as well. So thank you everyone again for joining us this morning. I just want to kind of plug the chamber events. We do have in-person events happening right now. So we have Wonder Women coming up May 18th and also the spring dinner coming up on May 4th. So you can register for those on the events page on the chamber site. If you want to get in contact with either Mark or Shane, reach out for their emails. And I think you guys can maybe even put your emails in the chat box. But thank you again, everyone, and have a good Tuesday and rest of the week. And I hope you enjoy some sunshine.
Enjoy
Thank
the
you,
weather.
everyone.
Thanks,
Appreciate
everybody.
it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Take care.
Thank you.